I came home early from my business trip, excited to surprise Jessica. I could hear laughter coming from our backyard patio, where she was hosting her monthly wine night with friends. I quietly walked through the kitchen with the dessert I brought ready to join them. Then I froze at the sliding door when I heard Jessica slur drunkenly. Ambrose is too stupid to realize I have been cheating for years. Her friends roared with laughter, and my world stopped spinning. Let me know where you are watching this from in the comments below. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button now, because this story will show you exactly what strategic silence looks like when facing betrayal. I met Jessica during our senior year of college 8 years ago. She was the beautiful marketing major who caught my eye in our business ethics class, ironically enough. There was an instant connection between us, the kind you read about but rarely experience. We dated for 3 years before I proposed, and we had been married for 5 years now. I thought we were happy. I truly believed we had something special. As a software engineer, my career required occasional travel for different projects. I worked for a growing tech company that specialized in cybersecurity systems, and my expertise often took me to client sites across the country. Jessica never complained about my travels, at least not directly to me. She had built her own successful career as a marketing executive at a local agency, winning several awards for her campaigns. We were the power couple among our friends, both advancing in our careers while maintaining what I thought was a solid marriage. We had purchased a beautiful colonial-style home in an upscale suburban neighborhood 2 years ago. With 4 bedrooms, a spacious backyard, and a recently renovated kitchen, it was everything we had dreamed of when starting our life together. Our financial situation was comfortable, allowing us to enjoy regular date nights, weekend getaways, and annual vacations abroad. Just last year, we spent 2 weeks touring Italy, taking hundreds of photos of us looking happy and in love against spectacular backdrops. Our social life was active, with regular dinner parties at our home and attendance at local charity events. Jessica had her monthly wine nights with her closest friends, and I had my weekend golf games with my college buddies. We seemed to have mastered the balance between independence and togetherness that everyone said was the key to a successful marriage. I loved Jessica completely. Every decision I made, from career moves to daily choices, included consideration of her happiness and our future together. I surprised her with thoughtful gifts, remembered all the important dates, and made sure to express my love daily. When she mentioned wanting to redecorate our living room, I happily turned over the budget and decisions to her. When she expressed interest in trying new restaurants, I made reservations at the most exclusive places I could find. My devotion to her was absolute, and I believed hers was to me as well. Looking back, there were signs I chose to ignore. Jessica had become increasingly secretive about her phone, always keeping it face down and taking calls in another room. There were unexplained absences, times when she would return home hours later than expected, with vague explanations about work emergencies or traffic. Our intimate life had diminished over the past year, with Jessica often claiming exhaustion or headaches. But I trusted her completely. When doubts crept in, I pushed them aside, blaming my own insecurity rather than her behavior. The business trip I had just returned from was supposed to last the entire week. We were implementing a new security system for a financial institution in Chicago, but we completed the installation ahead of schedule. Instead of staying the extra 2 days as planned, I decided to surprise Jessica by coming home early. Our 5th anniversary was approaching in a few weeks, and I had been researching destinations for a special trip. I thought surprising her with my early return would give us a chance to discuss options and make plans together. I had spent months saving for this anniversary trip, setting aside bonuses and cutting back on personal expenses to create a memorable experience for us. I was considering either a luxury Alaskan cruise or a private villa in Bali, destinations Jessica had mentioned wanting to visit. I had brochures for both hidden in my desk drawer, waiting for the right moment to present the options to her. On my way home from the airport, I stopped to buy a bouquet of pink peonies, her favorite flowers. I also picked up a box of chocolate truffles from the specialty shop downtown that Jessica loved. I imagined her face lighting up when she saw me, how she would throw her arms around my neck the way she did when we first dated. I pictured us spending the evening, reconnecting, sharing details of our week apart, perhaps opening a bottle of wine and ending the night in each other's arms. As I pulled into our driveway, I noticed several cars parked along the street, including those belonging to Jessica's closest friends. I remembered then that this was her scheduled wine night, which she held on the last Thursday of each month. Rather than feeling disappointed that our reunion would not be private, I was excited to surprise not just Jessica but her friends as well. They had always been supportive of our relationship, or so I thought, and I enjoyed their company. I entered our home quietly through the garage door, hearing the distant sound of laughter and music coming from the backyard patio. Jessica had created a beautiful entertainment space there last summer, with comfortable seating, ambient lighting, and an outdoor sound system. It was her pride and joy, the perfect setting for her monthly gatherings. I set my luggage down in the laundry room, placed the flowers in a vase, and held onto the box of truffles. I thought they would make a perfect addition to the wine and conversation on the patio. I moved through our kitchen, noticing the empty bottles of expensive wine on the counter, at least 4 or 5 already consumed by the group. I approached the sliding glass door that led to the patio, ready to step out and announce my surprise return when I heard words that would forever change my life. "Ambrose is too stupid to realize I have been cheating for years," Jessica said, her words slightly slurred from the wine. "You should see how he still looks at me, with those puppy dog eyes, bringing me gifts and planning trips. Meanwhile, I was with Michael just yesterday in our bed." The group of women erupted in laughter again, the kind of cruel, uninhibited laughter that comes from too much alcohol and too little character. I stood frozen behind the door, my hand still on the handle, the box of truffles suddenly heavy in my other hand. "Girl, you are bad," said Lisa, Jessica's coworker and closest friend. "But seriously, how do you keep all these guys straight?" "Michael, David, and who was that trainer from your gym?" Jason, Jessica supplied with a giggle. "And it is not that hard. They each serve a different purpose. Michael is fun and adventurous. David is romantic and generous with gifts. And Jason, well, let us just say he more than makes up for what Ambrose lacks in certain departments." More laughter. I felt physically ill, my stomach turning as waves of nausea and dizziness washed over me. The blood rushed in my ears so loudly. I nearly missed what was said next. "So when is Ambrose coming back from his trip?" asked Natalie, another friend I had always thought was supportive of our marriage. "Not until Saturday, which means I have plans with David tomorrow night at that new hotel downtown. Ambrose thinks I am attending a marketing conference dinner. He never checks, never questions anything I tell him. Sometimes it is almost too easy to feel challenging. Do you ever worry he will find out?" This from Rachel, who at least had the decency to sound slightly concerned. Jessica scoffed. "How I delete all my texts, use a separate email account, and he trusts me completely. Besides, even if he had suspicions, he would never confront me. Ambrose avoids conflict at all costs. It is what makes him such a boring husband, but a perfect cover for having some actual excitement in my life." Speaking of excitement, Lisa chimed in again. "Tell them about what happened with Michael in Ambrose's car." Jessica launched into a detailed account of how she had invited one of her affair partners to our home while I was at a 3-day conference last month. She described in excruciating detail how they had sex in my car, the luxury sedan. I had worked overtime for months to afford choosing it specifically because Jessica had admired it. "We did it right there in his precious BMW," she boasted. "Michael wanted to try somewhere risky, and I thought what could be more perfect. Ambrose washes and details that car every Sunday, completely oblivious that I had another man in there just days before." I gripped the door handle so tightly my knuckles turned white. Every word was like a physical blow, punching holes in the reality I thought I knew. The loving wife I believed in was a stranger to me, a cruel, calculating woman I did not recognize. "So, your anniversary is coming up, right?" asked Natalie. "Are you going to let him take you on another expensive trip?" "Of course," Jessica replied. He mentioned possibly Alaska or Bali. "I am pushing for Bali because the time difference will make it easier to stay in touch with Michael while we are away. Last year in Italy was tricky with the scheduling, but I still managed to call David almost every day when Ambrose was in the shower." "Are you ever going to leave him?" Rachel asked, the only one who seemed even slightly uncomfortable with the conversation. Jessica's response was immediate and decisive. "Why would I leave? He makes good money, pays for most of our expenses, and has no idea what is happening. I get the stability of marriage and the excitement of dating all at once. It is the perfect arrangement. To the perfect arrangement, Lisa raised her glass, and the others joined in the toast, laughing again at my expense. I backed away from the door silently, my mind racing, but my body moving on autopilot. The truffles fell from my hand onto the kitchen counter. I retrieved my suitcase from the laundry room and left through the garage as quietly as I had entered, careful not to let the door make any sound. The women on the patio were too engaged in their wine and gossip to notice the subtle sound of my car starting in the driveway. I drove aimlessly for hours, no destination in mind, just needing to put distance between myself and what I had heard. Physical pain radiated from my chest, making it difficult to breathe. My hand shook on the steering wheel as fragments of Jessica's words played on repeat in my mind, too stupid to realize. Michael just yesterday in our bed. What Ambrose lacks in certain departments. It is almost too easy. Why would I leave? He makes good money. Every memory of our relationship was suddenly called into question. The nights she worked late, the weekends with friends, the business conferences she attended, all might have been opportunities for her infidelity. How long had this been happening? Had any part of our marriage been real, or had I been playing the fool from the very beginning? My first instinct was to confront her immediately, to storm back to the house and expose her in front of her friends. But something stopped me, a voice of caution that cut through the emotional tornado. Confronting Jessica while she was drunk and surrounded by supportive friends would only give her the upper hand. She would deny, minimize, or blame me, and her friends would back her version of events. No. This required a different approach altogether. By midnight, I found myself checking into a hotel downtown, the same one, ironically, where Jessica mentioned she would be meeting David the following evening. I requested a room on a high floor away from the elevators where I could think in peace. That night, sleep evaded me entirely as I shifted from shock to grief, to something else entirely. A cold, calculated determination that would guide my actions in the days to come. The next morning, I woke with absolute clarity about what needed to be done. This would not be a reactive emotional response, but a strategic one. Jessica had been calculating in her betrayal, and I would be equally methodical in my response. My first call was to Mark Stevens, a college friend who had become a private investigator. I explained the situation without emotional embellishment, requesting his professional services to document Jessica's activities. Within hours, he had a surveillance team in place, ready to follow Jessica and gather evidence of her affairs. This is not just about getting proof for yourself. Ambrose Mark advised during our meeting at his office. This is about building a case that will protect you legally and financially when you file for divorce. Divorce. The word felt foreign on my tongue, but inevitable in my mind. There would be no reconciliation, no couples counseling, no second chances. Jessica had not made a single mistake. She had engaged in years of deliberate deception. While Mark's team began their work, I started my own investigation. I checked our phone records online, finding numerous calls to 3 numbers that appeared frequently, often immediately after I would leave for business trips or during times. Jessica claimed to be working late. I documented the patterns, noting dates and durations. I reviewed our credit card statements for the past 2 years, finding charges for hotels, restaurants, and gifts that Jessica had never mentioned. There were spa days, weekend getaways, and expensive dinners during periods she claimed to be with friends or at work events. Each discovery was another nail in the coffin of our marriage, but also further confirmation that my decision was the right one. Using my technology background, I was able to recover deleted emails from our shared home computer. Jessica had been careless using a separate email account, but occasionally accessing it from our desktop. The recovered messages contained explicit exchanges with all 3 men. Mark had identified some dating back nearly 3 years, almost the entirety of our marriage. I contacted a divorce attorney, bringing my growing file of evidence to our first meeting. Patricia Winters was a respected family law attorney with a reputation for being thorough and uncompromising. "You have done more preliminary work than most clients," she noted, as she reviewed my documentation. "But we need to be strategic about how and when we file. You mentioned your wife does not know that you are aware of her infidelity. No, I confirmed. I have maintained normal communication via text, telling her my trip was extended by a few days. She has no idea I was home or what I overheard. Patricia nodded approvingly. That gives us an advantage. We can secure your finances and prepare everything before she realizes what is happening. Following Patricia's advice, I began securing my personal and financial future. I opened new bank accounts at a different bank, transferring half of our joint savings, which was legally acceptable, according to my attorney. I documented all our shared property, taking photos and creating an inventory of valuable items. I gathered important documents, birth certificates, insurance policies, investment records, and stored them in a safe deposit box. I located a furnished apartment and signed a 6-month lease, paying in advance to secure the space immediately. I arranged for a moving company to be on standby, ready to retrieve my personal belongings when the time was right. Throughout this process, I maintained minimal, normal-seeming contact with Jessica. I responded to her texts with casual updates about my supposedly extended business trip, never giving any indication that anything had changed. Her messages were filled with "miss you" and "cannot wait for you to come home" platitudes that now read as performances rather than genuine sentiment. According to Mark's reports, Jessica had indeed met David at the downtown hotel as she had planned. His team documented their arrival, their dinner at the hotel restaurant, and the fact that they did not leave until the following morning. They also observed her meeting with Michael at our home 2 days later, staying for several hours before he departed. All of this was meticulously photographed and recorded. The evidence is irrefutable. Mark told me, as he delivered his final report a week after I hired him. I am sorry, Ambrose. I know this cannot be easy. I felt oddly detached reviewing the photos and notes. The initial pain had given way to a focused determination to extract myself from this toxic situation with my dignity intact. I had already begun the process of emotional separation, recognizing that the Jessica I loved had never really existed. 10 days after overhearing Jessica's drunken confession, I put the final phase of my plan into action. Jessica had mentioned to me that she would be attending a weekend retreat with her marketing team, another lie, according to Mark's intelligence, as she had actually planned a weekend with Michael at a coastal resort. This gave me the perfect opportunity to make my move. I contacted my moving team, and within 3 hours they had retrieved all my personal belongings from the house. I took only what was indisputably mine, leaving all joint purchases and anything that could be contested. My clothes, personal electronics, family heirlooms, and my private collection of books and records, all carefully packed and transported to my new apartment. I left my key and garage door opener on the kitchen counter, but took nothing else. No note, no explanation, no indication of why I had left or where I had gone. The strategic silence was deliberate, a power move in what Jessica had turned into a game without my knowledge. According to my lawyer's advice, I then blocked Jessica's number on my phone and removed her from all my social media accounts. I informed my company's human resources department about my situation, requesting that Jessica not be given any information about me if she contacted them. I changed my email passwords and created new accounts where necessary. And then, I waited. It took Jessica nearly 48 hours to realize something was wrong. She returned from her weekend expecting to find me home after my business trip, only to discover some of my belongings missing and no way to contact me. According to our mutual friends who began reaching out to me with confusion, Jessica initially claimed we had a minor disagreement and I was staying with a friend to cool off. As days passed without contact, her story changed. She began telling people I was having some kind of breakdown or midlife crisis. She reached out to my parents, who, following my advance warning, simply told her they did not know my whereabouts but were sure I was fine. She called my friends, who gave similar responses as instructed. Her texts and calls to my blocked number went unanswered. Her emails to my old accounts received no response. Her attempts to locate me through mutual acquaintances yielded no information. The power dynamic had shifted completely, and for the first time in our relationship, Jessica was not in control. A week after I moved out, my lawyer filed the divorce papers, citing irreconcilable differences and including the evidence of infidelity. Jessica would be served at her office, a public setting that offered a small measure of the humiliation she had inflicted on me, though that was not my primary motivation. I was not interested in revenge. I wanted justice, closure, and the chance to rebuild my life on honest foundations. The calculated nature of my departure was not meant to hurt Jessica, but to protect myself from further manipulation and lies. I had given her 8 years of loyalty and love, and she had repaid me with deception and disrespect. Now I was reclaiming my power and my future. 10 days after I disappeared from her life, Jessica managed to obtain my new address, likely from a well-meaning but misguided mutual friend. My doorbell rang on a Tuesday evening, and through the peephole I saw her tear-streaked face, the very picture of distress and concern. When I opened the door, Jessica nearly collapsed into my arms, her face a perfect mask of worry and relief. Ambrose. Thank God, I have been so worried about you. Why did you just disappear? Why would you not answer my calls? I thought something terrible had happened. Her performance was impressive, I had to admit. The trembling voice, the tear-filled eyes, the way her hand reached for me instinctively. In the past, it would have worked flawlessly. I would have comforted her, apologized for causing her distress, and worked to make things right between us. But that was the old Ambrose, the one she had called too stupid to realize what was happening right under his nose. "Come in, Jessica," I said calmly, stepping aside to allow her entry into my new apartment. She looked around, taking in the sparse furnishings and impersonal space. "What is this place? What is going on? Why did you take your things and leave without a word? Do you have any idea how scared I have been?" I gestured toward the couch, maintaining my composure. "Please, sit down. We should talk." Jessica sat, her designer purse clutched tightly on her lap like a shield. She was dressed impeccably, as always, her makeup perfect, despite the tears she had manufactured for my benefit. I noticed she wore the diamond earrings I had given her for our last anniversary, a calculated choice meant to remind me of happier times and my devotion to her. "I deserve an explanation, Ambrose," she said, her voice catching slightly. "You cannot just walk out on our marriage without a word. Whatever is wrong, we can fix it. We have always been able to work things out." I sat in the armchair across from her, maintaining enough distance to stay clear-headed. "You are right about deserving an explanation, Jessica. Let me give you one." I reached for a folder on the coffee table and opened it deliberately. 2 weeks ago, I came home early from my trip to Chicago. We finished the project ahead of schedule, and I wanted to surprise you. It was a Thursday night, and you were hosting your wine night on the patio. Jessica's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, a flash of realization quickly masked by confusion. "I do not understand what that has to do with anything." "I heard everything, Jessica," I said, quietly watching her face carefully. "I stood at the sliding glass door and heard you tell your friends that I was too stupid to realize you have been cheating for years. I heard about Michael, David, and Jason. I heard about what you did with Michael in my car. I heard you say you had no intention of leaving me because I make good money and have no idea what is happening." The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly, shifting to denial. "That is ridiculous. I would never say such things. I love you. Whatever you think you heard, you must have misunderstood. We were probably just joking around. You know how silly girls get when they have been drinking." I removed a stack of photographs from the folder and placed them on the table between us. These were taken over the past 2 weeks. You and David at the Hotel Belmont downtown. You and Michael at our house while I was supposedly still in Chicago. There are more if you would like to see them. Jessica's eyes widened as she looked at the images, unmistakable evidence of her infidelity. "You had me followed. How could you invade my privacy like that?" Her immediate shift to outrage rather than remorse told me everything I needed to know about her character. "I also have these." I continued placing printed copies of emails and text messages beside the photos. "Conversations between you and your affair partners, going back nearly 3 years. Plans, explicit exchanges, discussions about how to deceive me." Jessica's strategy shifted again, her eyes filling with fresh tears. "Ambrose, I made terrible mistakes. I never meant to hurt you. It did not mean anything, I swear. It was just I do not know, a phase or something. You are the one I love, the one I want to be with. We can get past this. Go to counseling. Rebuild our trust." "There is nothing to rebuild, Jessica. You systematically lied to me for years. You betrayed my trust repeatedly, and intentionally. You mocked me to your friends and took pleasure in deceiving me. This was not a mistake or a momentary lapse in judgment. This was a deliberate choice you made day after day. People make mistakes, she cried, the tears flowing freely now. You cannot throw away 8 years over this. What about our vows? What about everything we built together? Are you really going to let one indiscretion destroy our marriage? 3 affairs simultaneously is not one indiscretion, I pointed out calmly. And it was not the affairs that destroyed our marriage. It was the lies, the disrespect, and the complete lack of remorse until you got caught. I reached into the folder one final time and removed the divorce papers already filed with the court. You will be officially served tomorrow at your office. But I thought you deserved to know what is coming. Jessica stared at the papers, shock, replacing the calculated tears. You filed for divorce without even talking to me, without giving me a chance to explain or make it right. What could you possibly explain, Jessica? That you did not mean the things you said to your friends, that you did not deliberately cheat with multiple men, that you did not intentionally lie to me countless times. There is nothing to discuss. Her shock quickly turned to anger, the mask of the concerned wife completely falling away. You will never find anyone who loves you like I do. You are boring and predictable and completely oblivious. Do you really think you can do better than me? I could not help but smile slightly at her revealing outburst. Thank you for confirming that I am making the right decision. And yes, being alone would be better than being with someone who sees those qualities as negatives rather than positives. Boring and predictable also means reliable and consistent. Oblivious means trusting something you took advantage of. You will regret this, she said, standing abruptly. When the hurt and anger fade, you will realize what you threw away. What I am throwing away is a relationship built on lies. What I am reclaiming is my self-respect and the chance at genuine happiness. Jessica's face contorted with rage. This is all your fault, you know. If you had been more exciting, more attentive, more present, I would not have needed to look elsewhere. Your constant work trips, your boring hobbies, your complete lack of spontaneity, you practically pushed me into other men's arms. I remained calm in the face of her accusations. I will not engage in this blame game, Jessica. You made your choices, and now I am making mine. The divorce will proceed whether you cooperate or not, though it would be easier for both of us if you do. You will pay for this, she hissed, grabbing her purse. I will take you for everything you are worth. The prenuptial agreement we signed explicitly states that infidelity negates any claim to alimony or additional assets beyond what you brought into the marriage, I reminded her. And I have more than enough evidence to satisfy that clause. You might want to consult with a lawyer before making threats. Jessica stormed toward the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. This is not over, Ambrose. You have no idea who you are dealing with. Actually, for the first time in our relationship, I think I do, I replied. Goodbye, Jessica. As the door slammed behind her, I felt an unexpected sense of peace wash over me. The confrontation I had been dreading was over, and I had maintained my composure throughout. I had not allowed her to manipulate me with tears or provoke me with accusations. I had stated my position clearly and stood firm in my decision. The weeks that followed were challenging, but not in the ways I had anticipated. The logistics of divorce proceedings, while complicated, were manageable with Patricia's guidance. Jessica eventually realized that fighting the evidence was futile and agreed to a settlement largely on my terms, though not without numerous attempts at emotional manipulation along the way. The harder part was rebuilding my life as a single person, after 8 years of defining myself partly through my relationship. I had to rediscover who I was, apart from being Jessica's husband, what I enjoyed, what I wanted for my future. I found support in unexpected places. Friends I had neglected during my marriage reached out when they heard about our separation. Colleagues invited me to social gatherings I would have declined in the past. My parents, relieved that I had extracted myself from a toxic relationship, provided emotional support without judgment. I started seeing a therapist to process the betrayal and understand why I had missed so many warning signs. Dr. Levine helped me recognize patterns of behavior I had accepted as normal that were actually red flags. She helped me work through the anger and hurt without letting those emotions define my future relationships. Trust is earned incrementally, she told me during one session. The mistake many people make after betrayal is swinging from blind trust to no trust at all. The healthy middle ground is cautious optimism, allowing people to prove themselves over time. I threw myself into my work, earning a promotion that had been on the horizon for months. I reconnected with old hobbies, joined a hiking club, and started volunteering at a local coding program for underprivileged youth. Gradually, my life began to feel full again, rich with meaningful connections and activities that fulfilled me. 6 months after filing for divorce, the paperwork was finalized. I felt no desire to celebrate, but I did take myself out to a nice dinner, a symbolic recognition of my new beginning. As I raised a glass to myself, I reflected on how different my life looked from what I had planned, yet how much potential it still held. Through mutual friends, I heard that Jessica had moved to another city for a fresh start after our divorce became public knowledge. Her carefully cultivated image had suffered when details of her affairs emerged, and many of her friends, particularly those who were married, had distanced themselves from her. I felt no satisfaction in this news, only a distant sadness for the woman I thought I had known. A year after that fateful wine night, I met Sarah at a charity event for the coding program where I volunteered. She was a curriculum developer for the program, passionate about education and technology. Our conversation flowed easily, without pretense or performance on either side. We took things slowly, both of us carrying lessons from past relationships. I was transparent about my divorce without dwelling on the details, and she shared her own experiences with trust and betrayal. We built a foundation of honest communication from the beginning, addressing concerns directly rather than letting them fester. What I appreciate most about you, Sarah told me after we had been dating for several months, is that you say what you mean. There is no guessing game, no hidden agenda. It is refreshing to be with someone so straightforward. I realized then how much I had changed. The painful experience with Jessica had forced me to establish clearer boundaries, communicate more directly, and trust my instincts when something felt wrong. While I would never be grateful for the betrayal, I could acknowledge that navigating through that pain had made me stronger and more self-aware. The most profound lesson I learned from my marriage and divorce was about the importance of self-respect. By staying silent that night on the patio, by planning my exit strategically rather than reacting emotionally, I had maintained my dignity in a situation designed to strip it away. I had refused to participate in Jessica's drama or allow her to dictate the terms of our separation. Walking away from toxicity is not weakness, as some might suggest. It is an act of tremendous strength and self-love. It is a declaration that you value yourself too much to accept disrespect, that you believe in your worth enough to demand better treatment. Sometimes the most powerful response is not a shouted confrontation but a quiet, determined exit. If you have ever experienced betrayal or are currently in a relationship that diminishes rather than enhances your life, I hope my story gives you courage. You deserve honesty, respect, and genuine love. Nothing less is acceptable, regardless of how much history or how many shared dreams you have invested. Have you ever had to make the difficult decision to walk away from someone you loved? Share your experience in the comments below, and let us know how you found the strength to choose yourself. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and self-discovery. Share this with someone who might need to be reminded of their worth today. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the end of one chapter is exactly what you need to write a better story.